Welcome to our channel, where stories are not just told, they are felt. Here, we explore the lives of extraordinary people who rose from silence, from doubt, from impossible odds, and turned their struggles into something timeless. If you believe in growth and resilience, in the quiet power of becoming better each day, then you are already part of this family. Today, we journeyed into the life of a man whose elegance changed a sport, whose humility touched the world, and whose spirit continues to inspire millions. This is the story of Roger Federer. Chapter 1: The Boy from Basel. The story begins in Basel, Switzerland, a quiet city of cobblestone streets, river mist, and cathedral bells that echo gently across the Rhine. In a small apartment above a pharmacy, on August 8, 1981, a boy was born, a boy who would one day redefine elegance itself. But back then, he was just Roger, a shy child with bright eyes, a curious mind, and a smile that came easily. His father, Robert, was Swiss, disciplined, calm, structured. His mother, Lynette, was South African, warm, joyful, full of energy. From them, Roger inherited a rare balance, the precision of Switzerland and the soul of Africa. As a child, he wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't even the most disciplined. But he had something else, something invisible, something powerful. He loved the game, not just tennis, any game, any ball, any challenge. He played football in the streets, table tennis in the kitchen, badminton in the backyard. He chased every ball like it carried a secret only he could unlock. And then, one day, he picked up a tennis racket. It felt natural, almost too natural, like the racket wasn't an object, but an extension of his arm. Like the ball wasn't an opponent, but a friend. But talent alone is never enough, because young Roger had a problem, a big one. He couldn't control his emotions. When he lost, he cried. When he missed, he screamed. When he felt pressure, he broke, sometimes literally smashing rackets on the ground. People whispered, "He'll never make it. He's too emotional. He doesn't have the discipline." But every great story begins with a flaw, and every legend begins with a storm. Roger Federer's storm was inside him, and he had no idea that one day, learning to calm that storm would become the key to unlocking his greatness. For now, he was just a boy with a dream, a temper, and a heart full of possibility. The world didn't know it yet. He didn't know it yet. But the journey of a legend had already begun. Chapter 2: The Wild Child on Court. The world remembers Roger Federer as the calmest man to ever hold a tennis racket. But that serenity, that elegance, that almost spiritual composure, it wasn't there in the beginning. In fact, young Roger was the opposite. He was a storm, a beautiful, chaotic, uncontrollable storm. The boy who felt too much. At age 12, Roger was already one of the most talented juniors in Switzerland. But talent is only half the story. The other half, the harder half, is emotional control. And Roger didn't have it. He hated losing. He hated mistakes. He hated the feeling of not being perfect. Every missed shot felt like a personal failure. Every error felt like a wound. He would shout. He would cry. He would throw his racket across the court like it betrayed him. Spectators whispered, "He's gifted, but he's too fragile. He'll burn out. He'll never survive the pressure." But the truth is this: greatness often begins in chaos. Because chaos means passion. Chaos means fire. Chaos means the heart is alive. Roger Federer's heart was burning. He just didn't know how to control the flames yet. The turning point, a coach who saw beyond the anger. Every legend needs a guide. For Roger, that guide was Peter Carter, a soft-spoken Australian coach with gentle eyes and a deep understanding of human nature. Carter didn't just see Roger's talent. He saw his pain. He saw the boy behind the anger, and he made a decision. I won't teach him just tennis. I'll teach him how to be a person. Carter didn't yell. He didn't punish. He didn't shame. Instead, he taught Roger something far more powerful: patience, breathing, respect, self-control. He told him, "Roger, you can't play beautifully if your mind is ugly." Those words stayed with him forever. The first signs of transformation. Slowly, the storm began to calm. Roger learned to pause before reacting. He learned to breathe through frustration. He learned that anger steals precision, steals clarity, steals the beauty of the game. And then something magical happened. The boy who once screamed at the sky began to move with grace. The boy who once smashed rackets began to glide across the court like he was dancing. The boy who once fought himself began to fight for something greater. People started noticing he's changing, he's maturing, he's becoming someone different. But the transformation was far from complete, because life was about to test him in a way no match ever could. A test that would break him, and then rebuild him into the champion the world would one day adore. Chapter 3. The moment that broke him and built him. There are moments in life that split us in two. Moments that carve a line between who we were and who we must become. For Roger Federer, that moment arrived in the summer of 2002, and it began with a phone call. The news that shattered everything. Roger was in Toronto, preparing for a tournament. He was 21, talented, rising, full of promise, but still inconsistent, still searching for himself. Then the phone rang. On the other end, a voice trembling with grief delivered the words that would change him forever. Peter Carter is gone. A car accident, a vacation gone wrong, a life cut short. Roger froze. The world around him blurred. The noise of the hotel lobby faded into silence. Peter Carter, the man who believed in him before anyone else. The man who taught him discipline. The man who taught him grace. The man who shaped his character was gone. Just like that, Roger walked out of the hotel. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't care. He found a quiet corner behind the building, sat down on the pavement, and cried. Not the frustrated tears of a young athlete, but the deep, soul-breaking tears of a boy who had lost a father figure. He cried for minutes. He cried for hours. He cried until his chest hurt. Because Peter wasn't just a coach. He was the person who saw the greatness inside Roger long before Roger saw it himself. And now he was gone, forever. The promise. When Roger returned to Switzerland for the funeral, something inside him shifted. He stood there, looking at the coffin of the man who shaped his life. And he made a silent vow, a vow that would define the rest of his career. I will become the player you knew I could be. I will honor you with my discipline, with my effort, with my life. This wasn't motivation. This wasn't ambition. This was purpose. A purpose born from grief, love, and gratitude. The transformation begins. After Carter's death, people noticed something different about Roger. He trained harder, he focused deeper, he carried himself with a new maturity. The tantrums faded, the anger dissolved, the storm inside him finally settled. He began to play with clarity, with elegance, with a sense of responsibility, not just to himself, but to the man who believed in him. And slowly, the world began to see it. Roger Federer was becoming Roger Federer, not just a talented player, not just a rising star, but a future legend, a man shaped by loss, a man driven by purpose, a man who would soon change the sport forever. Chapter 4: Becoming a Gentleman of the Game. After Peter Carter's death, something inside Roger Federer shifted forever. The fire was still there. The passion was still there. But the chaos, the emotional storms, the wildness, they began to fade. In their place, something new started to grow. Discipline, grace, humility, purpose. This was the beginning of Federer's transformation, not just as an athlete, but as a human being. The birth of a new Federer. When Roger returned to the tour, people noticed it immediately. He walked differently. He carried himself differently. He spoke differently. There was a calmness in his eyes, a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. He no longer argued with himself. He no longer fought the game. He no longer let frustration control him. Instead, he began to play with a sense of peace, a sense of clarity, a sense of gratitude, as if every point was a gift, as if every match was a chance to honor the man who believed in him. The discipline behind the elegance. People often say Federer made tennis look effortless, but the truth is the opposite. Behind the elegance was relentless discipline. He trained harder than ever. He studied his weaknesses. He rebuilt his footwork, his serve, his mental game. He learned to stay calm under pressure. He learned to breathe through difficult moments. He learned to let go of mistakes instantly, a skill that would later define his greatness. And slowly, the world began to see something extraordinary. Roger Federer wasn't just improving, he was evolving. The gentleman emerges. Tennis is a sport of emotions, ego, and intensity. But Federer began to carry himself with a rare kind of dignity. He apologized when balls clipped the net. He smiled at opponents after long rallies. He thanked ball kids, umpires, and fans with genuine warmth. He didn't just win matches. He won hearts. Commentators said, "He plays like a dream. He moves like water. He's bringing beauty back to tennis." But it wasn't just the beauty of his game. It was the beauty of his character. The world takes notice. By 2003, Federer was no longer just a rising star. He was becoming a symbol of elegance, sportsmanship, and quiet strength. Fans admired his talent. Players respected his humility. Coaches praised his discipline. And yet he had not won a Grand Slam. Not yet. But everyone could feel it. Something was coming. Something big. Something historic. The transformation was complete. The storm had become a river, calm, powerful, unstoppable. And that river was flowing straight toward Wimbledon. Chapter 5: The First Grand Slam. A new era begins. Wimbledon, the cathedral of tennis. The place where legends are not just made, they are anointed. For decades, center court had witnessed greatness. Borg, McEnroe, Becker, Sampras. But in 2003, it was about to witness something different. Something softer, smoother, more poetic. It was about to witness the rise of Roger Federer. The pressure of expectation. By 2003, Federer was no longer a promising young player. He was a contender, a man the tennis world watched with curiosity and anticipation. But he had a problem. He had never reached a Grand Slam final. People wondered, Is he too elegant to win? Is he mentally strong enough? Does he have the killer instinct? Federer heard the whispers. He felt the weight, but he carried it with calmness, a calmness he had earned through years of inner battles. This time, he wasn't playing for approval. He wasn't playing for validation. He was playing for purpose. The run to the final. Match after match, Federer moved through the draw with a quiet, devastating beauty. His footwork was light, his serve was precise, his forehand was a weapon. His backhand, once considered a weakness, was now a stroke of elegance. He wasn't just winning, he was floating. Commentators said, he makes the court look bigger. He makes time look slower. He plays like he's painting. And then, after years of struggle, heartbreak, and transformation, Roger Federer reached his first Grand Slam final. The final, a boy becomes a champion. On July 6, 2003, Federer stepped onto center court wearing all white, the color of tradition, purity, and destiny. Across the net stood Mark Philippoussis, a powerful server with a dangerous game. But Federer was calm. He breathed deeply. He bounced on his toes. He looked around the stadium, not with fear, but with gratitude. And then the match began. From the first point, it was clear. This was Federer's moment. He moved with grace. He struck with precision. He played with a serenity that felt almost supernatural. And when the final ball sailed long, Roger Federer fell to his knees, not in shock, not in disbelief, but in fulfillment. He had done it. He had become a Grand Slam champion. The tears that told the story. As he held the Wimbledon trophy, Federer cried, not the tears of a young boy overwhelmed by emotion, but the tears of a man who had carried a promise in his heart. A promise to Peter Carter, a promise to himself, a promise to the game. He whispered to the sky, "This is for you." And in that moment, the world understood. A new era had begun. A new king had arrived. And tennis would never be the same again. Chapter 6. The Art of Effortless Tennis. To the world, Roger Federer looked like he was born to play tennis. He glided. He floated. He moved like a whisper across the court. Every stroke looked easy. Every shot looked natural. Every rally looked like a dance. But here is the truth. A truth Federer rarely talked about, but lived every single day. Effortless is an illusion. Behind the elegance was endless effort. The illusion of ease. Fans often said, he doesn't even sweat. He makes it look so simple. He plays like he's from another planet. But the simplicity was a mask hiding thousands of hours of repetition. Federer practiced footwork until his legs burned. He practiced timing until his shoulders ached. He practiced balance until his body understood the court like a second home. His grace wasn't a gift. It was a craft shaped by discipline, patience, and obsession. The footwork that defines an era? Federer's footwork was the foundation of his magic. He didn't run, he glided. He didn't chase the ball, he arrived at the ball. Every step was calculated. Every movement was economical. Every adjustment was precise. Coaches said, he moves like a dancer. He wastes nothing. He's always in the right place. But that wasn't luck. That was mastery. The forehand, a weapon of poetry. Federer's forehand became one of the most feared shots in tennis history. It wasn't just powerful. It wasn't just accurate. It was alive. He could flatten it. He could loop it. He could curl it around the net post. He could hit it from impossible angles. And he made it look like a brushstroke. Smooth, fluid, effortless. But behind that beauty were years of refinement, years of adjusting grip, timing, shoulder rotation, and weight transfer. Years of hitting thousands of balls until the motion became instinct. The backhand, from weakness to art. Early in his career, critics said, his backhand will hold him back. So Federer rebuilt it, piece by piece, detail by detail. He strengthened his wrist. He improved his timing. He learned to take the ball early, sometimes impossibly early. And soon, the shot that was once a weakness became a signature. A one-handed backhand so elegant, so fluid, so pure, that it became a symbol of tennis itself. The mind behind the magic. What truly made Federer special wasn't just his technique. It was his mind. He saw the court differently. He saw patterns before they formed. He anticipated shots before they were hit. He played chess while others played checkers. And he did it all with a calmness that felt supernatural. But that calmness was earned, forged through years of emotional battles, personal loss, and inner transformation. The beauty of effort. People often said Federer was effortless, but the truth is more inspiring. He worked so hard for so long with such devotion that he made the impossible look easy. That is the real magic. Not talent, not luck, but mastery. Mastery built through discipline, humility, and love for the game. And as Federer's artistry reached its peak, something else was rising in the tennis world. A storm, a challenger, a force that would push Federer to his limits and redefine the sport forever. A young warrior from Mallorca, a rivalry for the ages. Chapter 7. Rivalries that forged a legend. Every era of greatness is defined not just by the champion, but by the challengers who forced that champion to rise higher. For Roger Federer, those challengers came in the form of two forces of nature. Rafael Nadal, the warrior of clay, the embodiment of grit. Novak Djokovic, the wall of steel, the master of resilience. Together, they formed the greatest triangle of rivalry in tennis history, and they shaped Federer into the legend the world knows today. The arrival of Rafael Nadal, the storm from Mallorca. In 2004, a teenager appeared on the tour. Long hair, sleeveless shirt, muscles carved from hours of training, eyes burning with intensity. His name was Rafael Nadal. He was everything Federer was not. Raw, explosive, relentless. A fighter who refused to yield even a single point. Where Federer floated, Nadal attacked. Where Federer glided, Nadal sprinted. Where Federer was elegance, Nadal was fire. Their first matches were a shock to the tennis world. How could this young left-hander trouble the great Federer? But Nadal didn't just trouble him. He challenged him. He pushed him. He beat him. Especially on clay, Nadal's kingdom. And Federer realized something profound. To stay at the top, he would have to evolve. Federer versus Nadal wasn't just a rivalry. It was a story, a philosophy, a clash of worlds. Federer, lightness, precision, artistry. Nadal, power, endurance, heart. Their matches felt like poetry colliding with thunder. Fans didn't just watch, they felt every rally, every point, every moment. And through these battles, Federer grew stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally. Nadal forced him to dig deeper than ever before. The rise of Novak Djokovic, the unbreakable wall. Just when the world thought the Federer-Nadal rivalry was the peak of tennis, another challenger emerged. A young Serbian player with unmatched flexibility, iron discipline, and a mind that refused to break. Novak Djokovic. At first, he was underestimated. Then he was doubted. Then he was feared. Djokovic didn't just challenge Federer, he studied him. He decoded him. He found ways to neutralize the elegance, absorb the power, and turn matches into mental marathons. And Federer, the artist, had to learn to fight like a warrior. The rivalries that defined an era. Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. 3 men, 3 styles, 3 philosophies. Together, they created the greatest era tennis has ever seen. Their battles were not just matches. They were epics. 5-set wars, comebacks, heartbreaks, miracles. And through it all, Federer remained the symbol of grace. He won with humility. He lost with dignity. He inspired with every swing of the racket. Why these rivalries matter? Without Nadal, Federer would not have learned resilience. Without Djokovic, Federer would not have learned reinvention. Without both, Federer would not have become the complete legend he is today. Greatness is not built in isolation. It is forged in fire. And Federer's fire came from the 2 men who pushed him to the edge of his limits and beyond. Chapter 8. The Weight of Greatness. Being number 1 in the world sounds like a dream, but for Roger Federer, it was also a burden, a silent, invisible weight that pressed on him every single day. Because greatness is not just about winning. It's about maintaining the standard. It's about carrying expectations. It's about living under a spotlight that never turns off. And for years, Federer carried that weight with elegance, even when it was crushing him from the inside. The crown that never comes off. When Federer became world number 1, the world celebrated. Headlines praised him, fans adored him, sponsors chased him. But with the crown came a new reality. Every match was a test. Every loss was a crisis. Every victory was expected. People didn't ask, will Federer win? They asked by how much. And that kind of expectation slowly eats away at a person. Federer traveled the world. He played in packed stadiums. He was surrounded by fans, journalists, photographers. But inside, he often felt alone. Because no one truly understood the pressure he carried. No one understood the responsibility he felt. No one understood the fear of disappointing millions. He once said, "When you're at the top, you're alone with your thoughts. And those thoughts can be heavy." Being number 1 wasn't just about tennis. It was interviews, photo shoots, charity events, press conferences, sponsor obligations, travel schedules that left no room to breathe. Federer handled it all with grace. But grace does not mean ease. Behind the scenes, he was exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. But he never complained. He never showed frustration. He never let the world see the cracks. Because he believed that being a champion meant being a role model. The world saw Federer as invincible, but inside he carried a fear that all champions know. What if I can't stay at the top? Every young player was a threat. Every new talent was a reminder that time moves forward. Every loss felt like the beginning of the end. And yet Federer kept going. Not because he feared losing his place, but because he loved the game too much to let fear control him. What made Federer extraordinary wasn't just his talent. It was his ability to carry the weight of greatness with humility, with dignity, with a smile. He understood something profound. Pressure is a privilege, but it is also a test. And Federer passed that test year after year, match after match. Season after season, even when the world didn't see the struggle. even when the world didn't hear the doubts, even when the world didn't feel the weight he carried. He carried it anyway, because that is what greatness demands. Chapter 9: Injuries, Doubts, and the Fear of the End. Greatness is not a straight line. It rises, it falls, it breaks, it rebuilds. And for Roger Federer, the years after his peak dominance were some of the darkest of his life. Because for the first time, the man who moved like a whisper began to feel pain. Real pain. Persistent pain. The kind of pain that makes even legends question everything. Federer had always been known for his fluid movement, his lightness, his ability to glide across the court without strain. But around 2013, something changed. His back tightened, his legs felt heavier, his reactions slowed by fractions of a second. Tiny fractions, but enough to matter at the highest level. He tried to ignore it, he tried to push through. He tried to pretend he was still invincible. But the body never lies. And Federer was forced to face a truth he had avoided for years. Time was catching up. As Federer struggled, the world began to doubt him. Analysts said, he's too old. He can't keep up with Djokovic and Nadal. He should retire before it gets worse. Every loss felt heavier. Every early exit felt like a warning. Every headline felt like a countdown. And Federer heard it all. He didn't respond. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. But inside, he wondered, is this the beginning of the end? The 2016 collapse? The moment everything broke. Wimbledon 2016, a tournament Federer had ruled for over a decade. But this time, something felt wrong. His knee was unstable, his movement was off. His body was sending signals he could no longer ignore. In the semifinal, he slipped. His knee buckled, and the world watched as Federer fell to the grass, not in defeat, but in pain. After the match, he made a decision he had never made before. He withdrew from the rest of the season. 6 months away from tennis, 6 months of rehab, 6 months of silence. For a man who had played nearly nonstop for 18 years, it felt like an eternity. And the whispers grew louder. He's finished! He'll never win another slam. This is the end of the Federer era. During his recovery, Federer faced something far more terrifying than injury. Doubt. What if he never returned to his old level? What if his body couldn't handle the tour anymore? What if the world had already moved on? He trained quietly. He strengthened his knee. He rebuilt his body from the ground up. But the fear remained. Because for the first time in his life, Federer wasn't fighting an opponent. He was fighting time. The decision that changed everything. In December 2016, after months of rehab, Federer sat with his team and asked a simple question: should I keep going? They didn't answer for him, because this was a decision only he could make. And after a long silence, Federer smiled. A small, quiet smile. I'm not done yet. He wasn't chasing trophies. He wasn't chasing records. He wasn't chasing the past. He was chasing something deeper, the love of the game. And that love would soon lead him to one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. A comeback no one believed possible. A comeback that would redefine his legacy. Chapter 10. The father, the husband, the human. Behind the trophies, behind the elegance, behind the global fame, there is a man named Roger, a man who laughs easily, a man who loves deeply, a man who found balance not in victory, but in family. This chapter is not about the champion, it's about the human being, the love story that grounded a legend. Before the world knew Roger Federer, before the Grand Slams, Before the fame, there was Mirka. They met at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. Two young tennis players, both chasing dreams, both navigating the uncertainty of early careers. Mirka was strong, disciplined, and fiercely intelligent. She understood the pressure, the travel, the loneliness of the tour. And she saw something in Roger that the world had not yet seen: a gentle heart, a deep kindness, a man who would grow into greatness. Their bond became the foundation of Federer's life. She wasn't just his partner. She was his anchor, his advisor, his emotional home. In 2009, Federer's life transformed again, not on the court, but in the delivery room. Mirka gave birth to twin girls, Mila Rose and Charlene Riva. Suddenly, the man who once lived for tennis found something even more meaningful. He said, "When I became a father, my life became richer than I ever imagined." Later, in 2014, they welcomed twin boys, Leo and Lenny. 4 children, 2 sets of twins, a family that traveled with him around the world. Federer didn't hide them. He didn't shield them from the tour. He embraced fatherhood fully, changing diapers between matches, playing with his kids in hotel hallways, bringing them courtside to watch him compete. He wasn't just a champion, he was a dad. Most athletes struggle to balance family and career, but Federer found harmony in the chaos. He trained early so he could spend afternoons with his children. He scheduled tournaments around family time. He made sure his kids saw him not just as a tennis player, but as a present, loving father. And Mirka, always calm, always steady, managed the whirlwind with grace. She protected his focus. She supported his dreams. She kept their world grounded. Many people say Federer's longevity was a miracle, but the truth is simpler. He stayed young because he stayed loved. The humility that defined him. Despite his fame, Federer never acted like a superstar. He signed autographs for hours. He thanked ball kids personally. He remembered the names of journalists. He spoke to fans with genuine warmth. He didn't build walls around himself. He built bridges. And that humility wasn't an act. It was who he was, a reflection of his upbringing, his values, and the love that surrounded him. When people talk about Federer, they talk about the forehand, the footwork, the elegance. But those who know him personally talk about something else: his kindness, his humor, his generosity, his ability to make everyone around him feel valued. He wasn't just a great athlete, he was a great human being. And that humanity, that warmth, would become the foundation for the greatest comeback of his career. A comeback no one believed possible. A comeback that would shock the world. A comeback that would remind everyone why Roger Federer is more than a champion. He is a miracle. Chapter 11. The 2017 Resurrection. 6 months away from tennis, 6 months of silence, 6 months of rebuilding a body. And a soul. When Roger Federer returned to the tour in January 2017, he was 35 years old, an age when most tennis players are long retired. He had not played a competitive match in half a year. He was ranked outside the top 15. He was coming off knee surgery. He was entering a sport now dominated by younger, stronger, faster players. The world didn't expect much, but Federer wasn't listening to the world. He was listening to his heart. The Australian Open, a tournament of unknowns. When Federer arrived in Melbourne, he looked relaxed. Not confident, not arrogant. Just grateful. Grateful to be healthy, grateful to compete again, grateful to feel the weight of a racket in his hand. He said, "I'm here to enjoy the tournament. Whatever happens, Happens. But something was different. His eyes were calm. His movement was smooth. His spirit felt light, lighter than it had been in years. No pressure, no expectations, just love for the game. And that love would carry him further than anyone imagined. Match after match, the spark returns. Federer began winning. Not easily, not perfectly, but beautifully. His footwork was sharp. His forehand was alive again. His backhand, the shot critics once doubted, was suddenly a weapon. He defeated top players. He survived 5-set battles. He moved like a man reborn. And then, in the semifinals, he defeated Stan Wawrinka in a dramatic 5-set war. The impossible was happening. Roger Federer, at 35, after injury, after doubt, after 6 months away, was in a Grand Slam final again. But destiny had one more twist. Across the net stood the one opponent who had defined his career, Rafael Nadal. The final, a battle of legends. January 29, 2017. Rod Laver Arena. A match the world never expected to see again. Federer versus Nadal. The rivalry that shaped a generation. Two warriors, older now, wiser now, carrying the scars of 1,000 battles. The match was a masterpiece. 5 sets, momentum swings, heart-stopping rallies, a crowd that lived and died with every point. Nadal led in the 5th set. Federer looked tired. The world held its breath. But Federer wasn't done. Not yet, not today. Not after everything he had fought through. He stepped inside the baseline. He attacked with courage. He unleashed backhands that defied physics. And then, match point. A forehand, a challenge, a pause. The ball was in. Roger Federer fell to the ground, not in pain this time, but in joy. He had done the impossible. As Federer lifted the trophy, tears streamed down his face. Not the tears of a young champion discovering greatness, but the tears of a man who had lost it, fought for it, and reclaimed it. He said, "I don't think I can ever explain how much this means." And the world understood. This wasn't just a victory. This wasn't just a comeback. This was a resurrection. A reminder that age is just a number, that doubt is just noise, that love, pure love, can carry a person through anything. Roger Federer had returned, not as the player he once was, but as something even greater. A symbol of resilience, a testament to belief, a living miracle. Chapter 12. The Final Chapters of a King. After the miracle of 2017, the world looked at Roger Federer with new eyes. He was no longer just the elegant prodigy, no longer just the dominant champion, no longer just the comeback hero. He had become something deeper, a master of time, a symbol of longevity, a living legend who defied the rules of aging. And in these final years, Federer played tennis not with the urgency of youth, but with the wisdom of a man who understood the beauty of every moment. After winning the Australian Open in 2017, Federer didn't slow down. He won Wimbledon that same year, his 8th Wimbledon title, more than any man in history. He moved with the same grace. He struck the ball with the same purity. He smiled with the same joy. But something had changed. He wasn't chasing records anymore. He wasn't fighting for validation. He wasn't proving anything to anyone. He was simply playing the game he loved, and that freedom made him dangerous again. The 2018 Australian Open, a final triumph. In 2018, at age 36, Federer returned to Melbourne. The heat was brutal. The matches were long. The field was younger, stronger, hungrier. But Federer was wiser. He managed his energy. He trusted his instincts. He played with a calmness that felt almost spiritual. And once again, he reached the final. He won in 5 sets. He lifted the trophy. He cried openly, beautifully, vulnerably. At 36 years old, he became the oldest man to win a Grand Slam in the modern era. It wasn't just a victory, it was a message. Greatness has no age. The beauty of late career Federer. In these years, Federer's game became something like art. He didn't overpower opponents, he outthought them. He outmoved them. He outtimed them. Every shot was intentional. Every point was crafted. Every match was a lesson in elegance. Fans didn't just watch him play. They savored him because they knew, even if they didn't want to admit it, that this chapter wouldn't last forever. The pain behind the beauty, but behind the magic, Federer's body was struggling. His knee, the same knee that had nearly ended his career, began to ache again. Recovery took longer. Movement became harder. Matches demanded more than his body could give. He fought through it. He adapted. He reinvented his game again and again. But time, the opponent he had defeated for so long, was beginning to catch up. And Federer knew it. In his final years, Federer played with a rare kind of peace. He wasn't afraid of losing. He wasn't afraid of aging. He wasn't afraid of the end. He embraced it. He said, "I'm happy with my career. I'm proud of what I've done. Everything now is a bonus." And that acceptance made him even more beloved, because the world wasn't just watching a champion. They were watching a man who understood life. A man who knew how to let go with grace. A man who knew how to cherish the present. A man who knew that endings can be beautiful too. As Federer's career approached its final chapter, fans around the world held their breath. They knew the end was near. They knew the curtain was falling. They knew the king was preparing for his final bow. But no one knew how emotional, how powerful, how unforgettable that final moment would be. Because Federer's last match wasn't about winning. It was about love. Love for the game. Love for the fans. Love for the rivals who shaped him. Love for the journey that defined him. And that love would shine brightest in the final chapter of his career. A night the world will never forget. Chapter 13. The Last Match. Laver Cup 2022. Roger Federer's final match was not a Grand Slam final. It was not a championship. It was not a battle for records. It was something far more meaningful. A farewell. A celebration. A moment of pure humanity. On September 15th, 2022, Federer posted a message to the world. A message filled with gratitude. A message filled with peace. A message that carried the weight of 24 years of brilliance. He announced his retirement. The world stopped. Fans cried. Players cried. Even rivals cried. Because Federer wasn't just leaving tennis. He was closing a chapter of beauty, elegance, and joy that had defined an entire generation. Federer chose the Laver Cup for his final match. A team event he helped create. A celebration of camaraderie, respect, and unity. He didn't want a lonely goodbye. He wanted to be surrounded by friends, by rivals, by brothers. And so, on September 23rd, 2022, in London's O2 Arena, Roger Federer walked onto the court for the last time. Not alone, but hand in hand with the man who had defined his career, Rafael Nadal. The sight was surreal. Two men who had battled for years. Two men who had pushed each other to greatness. Two men who had shared pain, triumph, and history. Now stood side by side, not as opponents, but as teammates, as friends, as brothers. The crowd rose to its feet. The applause lasted minutes. Federer smiled, a soft, grateful smile. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't sad. He was present. Fully, beautifully present. The match. A celebration, not a battle. Federer and Nadal played doubles against Jack Sock and Frances Tiafoe. The match was filled with laughter, smiles, and flashes of vintage brilliance. Federer's serve still flowed. His volleys still sparkled. His touch was still magic, but the score didn't matter. This wasn't about winning. This was about saying goodbye with joy. And when the final point was played, when the last ball left Federer's racket, the arena erupted, not in victory, but in love. As the ceremony began, Federer stood with his teammates, Djokovic, Murray, Nadal, all of them legends, all of them emotional. But then something happened that no one will ever forget. Roger Federer began to cry, not quietly, not subtly. He cried openly, vulnerably, beautifully. And beside him, Rafael Nadal cried too. Two warriors, two rivals, two icons, holding hands as tears fell onto their jerseys. It was one of the most human moments in sports history. A reminder that greatness is not measured only in trophies, but in the hearts you touch. Federer took the microphone. His voice trembled. His eyes glistened. But his heart was full. He thanked his family. He thanked his team. He thanked his rivals. He thanked the fans. And then he said something that captured the essence of his journey. It's been a perfect journey. I would do it all over again. The crowd stood. The applause echoed. The moment became eternal. As Federer waved goodbye, he didn't look sad. He looked grateful, peaceful, complete. He walked off the court, not as a defeated athlete, but as a fulfilled human being, a man who gave the world beauty, a man who inspired millions, a man who left the sport better than he found it. Roger Federer's last match wasn't an ending. It was a celebration of a life lived with grace, passion, and love. A farewell worthy of a king. Chapter 14. What Federer Taught the World. Roger Federer didn't just play tennis. He expressed something through it. Something human, something universal, something that reached far beyond the boundaries of sport. His career wasn't just a collection of matches. It was a collection of lessons. Lessons about grace. Lessons about discipline. Lessons about resilience. Lessons about what it means to live a beautiful life. 1. Grace is strength, not softness. In a world obsessed with aggression, Federer showed that power can be quiet. He didn't roar. He didn't flex. He didn't intimidate. He flowed. He glided. He breathed. And yet he defeated the strongest warriors of his era. Federer taught the world, you don't need to be loud to be powerful. Grace is not weakness. Grace is mastery. 2. Reinvention is the secret to longevity. Federer's career lasted more than 2 decades because he refused to stay the same. He changed his racket. He changed his technique. He changed his training. He changed his mindset. He adapted again and again, not because he was forced to, but because he understood that evolution is the only path to greatness. He taught us, if you want to stay relevant, you must be willing to grow. 3. Rivalry can be beautiful. Federer's battles with Nadal and Djokovic were fierce, emotional, unforgettable. But they were never hateful. He respected them. He admired them. He learned from them. And in return, they pushed him to heights he could never have reached alone. Federer showed the world, your rivals are not your enemies. They're the ones who make you better. 4. Losing with dignity is a form of victory. Federer lost many heartbreaking matches. Wimbledon 2008, US Open 2009, Wimbledon 2019, countless finals and semifinals. But he never smashed a racket, never insulted an opponent, never blamed the crowd, the umpire, or fate. He accepted defeat with humility. He taught us losing is not the opposite of winning. It is part of the journey. And sometimes, losing with dignity inspires more than winning with arrogance. 5. Joy is a superpower. Federer played with joy, a childlike joy that never faded, even after 1,500 matches, even after 20 Grand Slams, even after decades of pressure. He smiled during rallies, he laughed with ball kids, he joked with opponents. He reminded us, if you love what you do, you will shine. Joy is fuel. Joy is strength. Joy is what keeps the fire alive. 6. Family is the true foundation of greatness. Behind every trophy, behind every comeback, behind every victory was Mirka, was his children, was the quiet, steady love that grounded him. Federer taught us, success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. His greatest achievement wasn't a title. It was the life he built around the sport. 7. Endings can be beautiful too. Most athletes fight the end. They resist it. They fear it. But Federer embraced it. He said goodbye with grace, with gratitude, with peace. He taught us. A beautiful ending is also a victory. Because endings are not failures, they're transitions from what we were to what we will become. 8. Greatness is not what you achieve. It's how you make people feel. Federer's legacy is not just 20 Grand Slams. It's not the records. It's not the trophies. It's the feeling he gave people, the awe, the inspiration, the joy, the sense that beauty still exists in the world. He taught us people will forget the score, but they will never forget the feeling. And Federer made millions feel something magical. Roger Federer didn't just leave behind a career. He left behind a philosophy, a way of living, a way of moving through the world with elegance, humility, and heart. His story is not just about tennis. It's about life, about how to rise, how to fall, how to grow, how to love, how to let go, and how to do it all with grace. Thank you for spending this journey with us. If this story touched you, inspired you, or reminded you of the beauty and perseverance, you are already part of this community. Here, we honor the people who remind us what humanity can be at its best. If you'd like to walk with us through more stories of courage, resilience, and hope, we'd be honored to have you with us. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep the light within alive.